What's going on, YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I'm joined by Ricky again. He's going to sit in and offer another point of view on this knife and just sort of create a more conversation. I always think that's fun, and the other uploads where he's done that, it seemed to be fairly popular. So yeah, so he's here today with me. Today we're looking at a Medford knife. You can see here by this case. The case is actually a different color than what I have come to expect from Medford. This will be my fourth Medford knife, even though it's the first one featured on this channel. I'm used to seeing black. I don't know if it's this specific knife or if now he actually offers this color of pelican case with his knives. No clue, but it's this sort of weird. It's like refried bean color.
It's a kind of pale refried bean.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty accurate.
It looks very military-esque though. So anyways, let's go ahead and open this up. This is like I said, it's my fourth Medford, but it's my first Praetorian. You'll have already seen the thumbnail there. So this is a Praetorian T. Holy moly, look at that. So we've been playing with this for a day or so. So we've already, like the shock value with us is non-existent because we've already kind of done that.
I don't know. It still kind of got me when you opened it up. I don't know if you ever really get used to it. But...
No, I don't think you do. Let's do a size comparison here real quick. Okay, so the Manix 2, of course, is 8 inches overall. The Manix 2, is I think a great knife. I mean, even though we always see it on my comparison, or it's always the knife I use as a comparison. It's not a huge knife, but it's not a little knife. It's 8 inches. It's a knife that everybody's familiar with. It's a great EDC size. You can see that's absolutely dwarfed by the Praetorian. Mainly, I mean, the main thing that makes the aesthetics of the Praetorian is the blade. This is the Tanto variant, not the drop point variant. You can see this is also really thick at 0.2 or 0.19, which is basically a fifth of an inch thick, versus the Spyderco's 0.125 or 0.13. The Spyderco's blade is a little bit thinner than the titanium scales on the Praetorian T, but this is a reasonably sized, to some people, large folding knife. Not compared to the Praetorian. The Praetorian is massive. Now, when I ordered this is not the really thick one. The Praetorian Ti, or TI, is the one. It's exactly the same length, but it dimensionally is thicker both in blade and in the titanium scales. Whereas this Praetorian T's titanium scales are 0.125, and the stock thickness is 0.19. The Praetorian Ti is 3/16 thick and quarter-inch thick blade. The same as if you watch the previous video on the Todd Begg Bugatti, it's the same thicknesses there between the scales and blade. But anyways, so I thought when I ordered this, I thought, and there's going to be a big long story time with this guy. When I ordered this, I was like, man, I don't know. Like in the pictures, the titanium, like I'm kind of wanting this big overbuilt, folding knife, and I don't know, the titanium looks like it might be a little thin. No, not when I got this thing in hand, I was like, oh my gosh, I couldn't imagine how crazy the Praetorian Ti must be, because this thing is a whopper to hold. It's 9 ounces, and this thing is freaking, I mean, it's huge, I'll let you hold that there.
It really is big. I can't imagine getting one bigger than that.
Oh yeah, it's unreal, And also keep in mind, guys, I'm going to talk about this knife, but I told Ricky before we started here, I'm not really doing let's find out how we can justify the Praetorian T as an EDC knife.
Unless we're fighting off a bear, I really don't feel like you could.
If you're fighting off a bear and in order to, and then you need to escape him, and then you need to dig a hole in the ground for a shelter, then this is the perfect knife for you. If that's exactly what you're going to do.
Yeah, but that's the one scenario.
Yeah. Now, in all seriousness, I'm sure there are people who can justify this over other people as far as whether or not it is the perfect knife for a very specific scenario, and that there's, I don't know. One thing's for sure, the build quality is very good. It's a very sturdy knife. It certainly locks out harder than any knife I have ever felt, and I know it's really hard it's still stiff. The detent is very heavy, and I imagine the lock bar tension has to do with that. But it also, this lockout, I know it's really hard to imagine this. If you're watching this video, it's hard to tell, but the lockout on this guy is so unbelievably solid. Obviously, I'm not a fan of the spine whack test, but I feel like I could swing this as hard as I wanted to, and it would not disengage.
Yeah, I think it'd be all right there.
It really is heavy duty. So, I don't know. Greg's the warranty paper, which you can go view anywhere online. It says no prying, no. It's a big long laundry list of things that you can't do with it, or you're going to avoid the warranty. Gives off the impression that it may be delicate. I did not get that impression when I picked it up. I think that's just Greg saying, I made this knife, I don't want people testing what it can or can't withstand, given the nature of this knife being one of the most popular crazy overbuilt knives out there. I think he might be worried that it may invite that type of abuse.
Yeah. I could see somebody trying to just do, if he didn't have all the details of the warranty page, I could see somebody just trying to be stupid and try to break it.
Right, sure, maybe. And, that's also, guys, I'm not saying that I am, like, in agreement or disagreement with Greg Medford and what he stands for politically and as far as how he does his, the warranties on his knives and whether or not they're worth the price. Not going to talk about that at all. You guys can think whatever you want. I have no say one way or another. I am drawn to this design, despite this channel being more about the practical nature of a folding knife and whether or not a specific model is good for its designed purpose. This is way off the charts, so we're not going to try and justify it here. The main reason I wanted to show this one is that it is whether you agree with Greg Medford or not, whether you like his designs, whether you think that they are useful or not, this knife is in everybody's face. Everybody knows what the Praetorian is, and some people absolutely love it, some people hate it, but it's in your face. It's way up there as far as this part of the knife community that likes the higher end stuff. People know what this is. And it's partially because of the design, and it's partially because of how Greg Medford has created an online presence for himself. And it's Jim Skelton put it. He said, Greg Medford is very polarizing. You either agree with him. Most people either agree with him or strongly agree with him, or they absolutely do not agree with him. But one thing is for certain, people are talking about him. People are talking about this knife. And a lot of people will be like, oh, I'll never buy a Medford because Greg Medford's this, Greg Medford said that, said this, whatever. Let me tell you how I discovered the Praetorian the first time. I came across a Blade Forums thread about somebody complaining about him, saying negative thing after negative thing, and underneath in the comments, more negative things, people agreeing with the person who created the thread. Just so much negativity. And I read through all that and I thought, I'd like to go see what his knives look like.
Yeah.
And then I looked up a picture of this and I was like, wow, that's super cool. And maybe you think that's the key sign of a stupid person. That's fine. You can think of that way. My point is that there are a lot of people who will discover things that way. I mean, the fact that you're even talking about him is going to make people curious and then go look things up for themselves. And I did. And I've been lusting after a Praetorian for a long time. Specifically, I wanted the Praetorian tie, but I decided I don't care what people say. I really like how that looks and I want one. The problem is back then, the build quality was different. He was using D2 steel on the base models, and if you were lucky, maybe you could find one at S35, but you were going to pay $800 for one with the old pivot, which that's fine. The old screws, which were also fine, but they were not on each side. You just had this it was ugly. The screw just kind of came through and connected right here, which I've talked about before. My old opinion was that was a stronger system, and it may or may not be the case. I've kind of changed my thinking there. I prefer the aesthetics of how this looks. It also had the old popsicle stick pocket clip, which I did not like very much, and it did not have this lanyard hole. Now, the big thing though, $800 for that setup that I'm describing there, plus it was in D2 steel.
Yeah.
That's something that people have complained about a lot, much like how people complain about the Teflon washers on a Hinder. They're like, Teflon washers for $425, but, well, Hinder fixed that. Medford fixed a lot of the things that people are complaining about. And the price came down $100. And if you notice right here, there's a little 9. Not a D, not an S, not a 3. The D standing for D2. The S standing for S35VN. The 3 standing for 3V. It's a 9, which actually means S90V. This is an S90V Praetorian, which doesn't make a lot of sense. It's being offered right now as an exclusive through DLT trading, along with the serialization now. This is new. I'm pretty stoked. Not all of these, I know I keep coming off what I'm saying. Not all of these new Praetorians will have matching serial numbers. Greg talks about this in one of his videos. Some of them do, some of them don't. Mine's matching. I don't know if that makes it more special or not, but I thought that was kind of cool. But $700 for the new build quality, the new pivot, which looks really nice, I think. And the new pocket clip, which I effing love. I love this pocket clip. And S90V steel. That's still a lot of money, but I'll tell you what, for somebody who decided a long time ago that he would absolutely own a Praetorian T, it makes me much happier to own this version of it versus a standard D2. I think the S90V makes it special, especially since it's a short exclusive run. Whether or not they'll do this again, I don't know, but it is pretty cool. I've been talking for a long time. Sorry, I almost smacked you in the face there.
It's all right. We're in a little car.
The breaker is still NP3 coated. Wait, is it NP3 or is it N3P? I don't know.
Somebody in the comments will know.
Somebody in the comments will correct me. It's some sort of nickel-based coating that is more, I guess that's used in the world of firearms. I don't know anything about it. This is a D2 glass breaker with an NP3 coating or N3P coating. So that's pretty cool. And then they do run on phosphor bronze. They are very, very stiff when you get them, but they do absolutely break in. This is my 4th one, and all the other Medfords that I've owned have acted exactly the same way. They do, this one and all of the other Medfords have come perfectly centered, so I have no issue with that. That's a big deal to get a centered knife, absolutely. Anyways, I don't know. Ricky, what were your thoughts the moment that I opened this up for you?
The first thing I thought was that's the biggest knife I've ever seen in my life. Probably by quite a bit. And it just looks like you could literally stab it into a tank. But the thing that I was most excited about is when you were showing me, you sent me a few links of the ones that you were kind of looking at, and I thought the stonewash with this blade was going to be kind of more of the same color, and there's a lot more contrast than I thought there was going to be.
Yeah.
So it's a good looking knife.
Yes.
Like I thought it was all kind of gonna be the same color, and with a knife this big, like that's just like a blob.
Right.
But I really like this finish. It's a lot darker than I thought it was gonna be.
I do too. It's a rough, gnarly looking stonewash, but still uniform enough that it looks like, it doesn't look like he was like, here's an easier way to stonewash this, and he just like picks it up and throws it like across the asphalt. Like, no, this was professionally stonewashed, but it looks nice. It's uniform.
It really does.
It adds to the nature of the Praetorian, which is crazy hard, kind of overbuilt, rough. This looks like it would be a satin finish, but this is actually their tumbled finish. And a lot of you watching this right now, or people who are going to watch this, are going to go, what? DLTs offer these in the S90V, and they're going to pause this video and they're going to go over there and look, and they're going to see that there's all these cool, and by the way, we don't sell for DLT, we don't sell for Medford, we're just talking about it. You're going to notice that there's all these like really cool custom, like crazy colored ones, and you're going to be like, dude, why did you buy the plainest looking? Here's why. If I ever decide because this isn't a knife that I'm going to carry and use. Some people might. I won't. I just wanted one because I love, I'm more of a collector than a user. I love really cool knives, and I love just owning them. And maybe you're going to bash me for that or hate me for that, but that's totally fine. I'm sorry. That's who I am. But if I ever decide, that I'm ready to let this guy go, I think a plain setup is a lot easier to sell on the secondary market than a very specific color that only a few people may or may not be interested in. And that's just my thought process, but that's why I stick with these plain colors. And truthfully, I am attracted to a plain look. If you look at my my past hinderers, the guys that I always put the titanium scales on, I always get the same setup, stone washed and stone washed. I kind of like that look, you know. But I don't know. I can't remember what else I was gonna say.
For some reason, I feel like I would carry this, and I can't, which doesn't make any sense compared to my other knives. But for whatever reason, I'm just drawn to it.
Yeah.
And I'm having a really hard time figuring out why.
Dude, you know what? But what you just said right there is exactly, it's what runs through a lot of people's minds when they look at this. And you know, I know that there's going to be at least a few people watching this, or maybe a lot of people watching this going, you know, you're crazy. I would never ever carry it. That's the most impractical thing. I hate Medford. I hate his knives. You know, you're an idiot. That's kind of, there's going to be some people thinking that. But you have to remember, guys, the reason that this is popular and the reason you can't stop it from being popular despite its kind of clunkiness and awkwardness as a knife is because of the aesthetic and the appeal to this thing. It's an indescribable thing. There's nothing else really on the market that looks exactly like this. And I watched a video about the conception of this thing.
Really?
Yeah, and he said, you know, when he started making knives, and somebody can correct me, but I think his first model was the TFF1, or what would eventually be named the TFF1. He was making it, and he was charging $500 for it, or somewhere near that. And somebody eventually was like, dude, you're charging $500 for that? That's crazy. You can't do that. And I guess it made him mad. So he set out to prove the world wrong, that he could make something that was, as he puts it, F all cool.
Yeah.
And he said, I'll be able to charge whatever I want for it, and people will pay for it. And so he came up with the Praetorian, and that right there is going to make a lot of people mad.
Oh yeah.
You know,
I'm just gonna make it so cool I can charge whatever I want.
Right. And you know what? Maybe that makes you mad, and maybe you think I'm stupid for knowing that and still purchasing one of these. But you can't deny the reason that he's successful, the reason that this is, I think, his most popular, best-selling model, is because it's an unavoidable thing. I mean, this is crazy. Whether you like it or not, there's really nothing else out there exactly like this. And it's so I mean, it looks like a folding, sharpened whale shark.
It really does. I think part of the reason why the aesthetic looks so good is just because it's not thin, but compared to the blade, it's so thin right here. It just looks so different than anything else.
Right.
Like on the Mannix, like they're almost the same. It seems like it's the same size all the way through. Like it's a little thinner there. Right. But it just makes the blade look kind of not dainty, but that just looks cool how it's such a different size there.
Absolutely. For anybody wondering who's thinking, like, maybe you're teetering on the point where you're like, should I spend $700 on this thing? Truthfully, the moment I opened this, I was like, oh my gosh, I love this thing. I absolutely love it. Whether or not I plan to use it is for me besides the point. I love it. It feels as solid as I imagined, if not actually more solid than I imagined. Truthfully, if you were going to do something heavy with it, look at this handle. I mean, this is set. To me, this says if you needed some light chopping tool, if I'm really going to try to like force something practical with this, if you needed a light chopping tool, this would actually, I feel like, work for that, because the blade is heavy enough and you've got these bracing lugs back here. If you needed to do that, you could. Yeah, it's super heavy. Yeah, there might be other stuff that you could use that would work better. But you could do that, and I do trust it. Just feeling it lock out and putting it in and out of the handle. Yeah, I do trust it. Actually, on the note of locking it out, let me tell you something. After watching a bunch of videos of this, it really bothers me. It really bothers me when I see people do this, and then they come back here and they grab that thumb stuff. It's such a elongated process. I've watched a video on these, how Greg wants people to open them, or assumes people should open them. Cat's paw, like this. Start here, wheel it around to there. It works perfectly. It works exactly the way that he said that it should work. And, you know, Ricky's got it down too.
Yeah, and well, when I first grabbed it, that's how I opened it before he had said anything.
Yeah.
I don't know why you would do it anyway else.
I know. Yeah.
Like, it just doesn't make any sense.
And it's second nature to both of us now because we've been playing with it. But it actually does work really well. It looks like it would be an awkward way to open it because everybody's so used to using flippers and thumb studs, and on Spyderco's the thumb hole. It is its own thing. It's interesting. It works, And now coming down to like how because people are like, well, how sharp's the blade? Will it actually cut? Yeah, it actually
I would imagine
will.
So.
It actually is really sharp, and you can get curly cues on a piece of paper. It'll slice paper just fine. I don't know. Do you?
Oh, here, let's see if we have something that's not so torn up.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay.
There's a sticker on the back. So
you want to hold it, and maybe I can.
We'll give it a shot at least.
Okay. Let's see if I can actually. I can't. It's
not gonna
awkward
catch
when
on
you
that. Here, I'll
when you're.
try.
Yeah. Let's see if Ricky can get it.
we
just said it's sharp, and it's not going to cut. Let here you hold it.
Okay, there we go. Third time's the charm.
I've been playing with this. Okay, you in frame.
Oh. All right, there we go. There you go.
See what I mean here? This is still sharp enough to do that. Let's get a curly cue. Now, is it going to slice as good as a PM2? Absolutely not, guys. It's not a paramilitary tube, but is it sharp enough to slice? Yeah.
Oh, now you're getting in a rhythm.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, this is plenty sharp. I mean, there's no question about that. It's actually sharp. Now, on the Praetorian tie, well, I have no idea, But this is the Tanto variant. The blade geometry is crazy. It's not the most toilet paper shredding knife in the entire world, but it is sharp enough to cut. I don't know, is there anything else that you want to say or feel like needs to be said about it?
Well,
somebody just walked by, one of our friends walked by and said, "You guys are so weird."
A side note that I'm excited for, and I don't know how people will react to this, but for some reason I really like to do like the Spidey flick on all my knives if I can, and I like how they have that on this side. I'd assume it's just for the aesthetic to keep it symmetrical,
right?
Because it does. This wouldn't be ambidextrous, would it?
No, I don't think so. Yeah, you can't put the pocket
like
flip on the other side.
But I'm pretty certain that once you have it broken in, I think I'm gonna be close.
Yeah, look at that.
Like, that's pretty close.
Look at that. Man, I'll tell you what. If I ever do another video on this after it's broken in, I will show you reverse flicking it because that's as close as I've ever seen anybody get.
That's gonna be so cool when you flick out a blade that's that.
And it's a lot of it is to, impress somebody.
Yeah,
or,
it's a conversation piece.
Yeah, absolutely. So
I got some paper on me.
Yeah. Well, I've been notified that I'm running out of recording room. So I think this was cool. I'm glad. I always like doing these videos with Ricky. This is fun. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video today. I hope this was at least entertaining for you. I hope that this video doesn't flare up a huge argument. It's meaningless to argue. This has already been argued about a million times over. You either like it or you don't, and that's fine. Everybody can make their own choices and have their own opinions. But I hope it was at the very least entertaining. If you did like this video, please leave a like. And if you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of either expensive or inexpensive knives that I do or don't like. So check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, then please subscribe to this channel. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.